I have this vase in Alibre, and I'm very excited to show it to you. I would like to go through in this video a way of, say, working with Booleans and patterns to make something like this. So let's get started. We have a lot of patterning and a lot of Booleans to go. Here in the new part environment, I'm going to start by highlighting my XY plane and creating a sketch. And from here, I'll grab a line. Make one more line out here. I'll grab a symmetry. We'll grab this axis and go symmetric on those 2 points. And then I'll get an arc and put an arc right on the midpoint of this line as well as this one. I might as well grab an equal for these lines here. And then we'll put an arc up here and make sure that we are tangent. All right, once we are tangent, we'll grab a radius, and I'll give that a radius of 0.3. We'll give this a horizontal distance from the origin at, oops, not 1, but rather 5. We'll give this a height of 1.25. Give this line a length of 1, and we are fully constrained. So we'll deactivate the sketch, grab the XY again, make a plane. We'll offset the plane 1 inch. Activate a sketch. This time I'll project this line, this line, this line, maintain association. For reference, I'll add a reference line here with an equal constraint. I'm going to do the same curvature here, but a mirror image. So I'll grab the midpoint of my construction line right there. Do the same thing over here and make an arc to join the two. Of course, I'll add coincident, and we're going to say tangent, tangent, and then I'll also project this with maintained association as a reference figure to say equal. From here, we'll go symmetric again. This time I'm going to choose this arc body and this arc body. There we go, right? We've got a mirror image of what we were working with. So next we'll want to do a loft. And after a loft, things start to get really fun. So I'll grab my loft here. Lofting from here to here. Now I've got this, I'll call it a somewhat awkward line going across here. So to get rid of that, I'll just change my minimization to center of gravity. In fact, I like center of gravity quite a lot on most lofts. And we're going to specify a tangent magnitude. We're going to say 0.25 on both. It gives us this really nice curvy pattern. I really like it, so we'll close that. From here, let's make a sketch on the XY plane and pattern this. So now that I'm in this sketch, I want to pattern this using a path pattern. And of course, I'm going to be circular about this axis. So you can do a circular pattern. The reason I'm doing a path pattern is because it's a newer feature. I think it deserves some attention. And what I'm going to do for my path pattern is project this edge to the sketch, maintain association as a reference figure. I want, as this is pattern around this point, I want the corner of this to land right here, right? I want the pattern to start right on this corner. So how do I make that happen? Well, this is how, right? I'll reset my view. I'll make a line that goes from here to the origin, and then I'm going to make another horizontal line. I'll give these an equal constraint. I'll make a mirror, and we're going to say I want to mirror this line and use this as an axis. Mirror again. I want to mirror these 2 lines, and I want to go about this axis. Mirror again. I want to mirror 1, 2, 3, 4, and we'll go about this axis. And you can see the pattern that we're building. So I'm going to say OK to that. So let's do a quick experiment here. I'm going to say Control A, right click and convert everything to a reference figure, and then we're going to make an arc, and we're going to go 1, 2, right? And we're going to say that that's our path for a path pattern. So I'm going to deactivate that. We're going to ignore the fact that it's not closed. We're going to go with path pattern. We choose, of course, our loft. We choose our path. And there we go. But I want 2. And so you can tell we pattern this with no gap. And so that is pretty cool to be able to see the nuts and bolts behind this path pattern. In other words, when I've patterned 2 on that path, I've said, okay, the center of this, where I have this point here, is going to be right here at the end of the path. And so that might help when you have to do really precise path patterns like this. But of course, I want to do a little bit more. So let's go a distance of 8 of these points, right? I go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. We'll deactivate that. We'll ignore the fact that it's not closed. Path pattern. We'll choose this. We're going to say 4 instances, and our path objects will be the sketch, which I can choose from the tree. And actually, I think I want 5 of these. Yep. So there we have the start of our path pattern. Of course, we've let these bodies overlap, but that's okay because we can always do the inside whenever we feel like it. I would simply like to do a few mirrors now, right? So we'll do a mirror, and I'm not sure how I lost my plane view, so I'm going to say Control Shift P to bring back my planes and K for my sketches. And we're going to say mirror this to here. Just like that. We'll say OK. We'll do another mirror. Got everything selected right there. So we mirror that. Next thing, we want to give some thought to how we're going to pattern this next. And of course, I want to do a circular pattern. And so what I'll do is select a plane. Select our y-axis, and I think our xy plane would be the best, right? Running right through the middle. I'm going to give this an angle, and we can look from the top. So give this an angle of 9 degrees. I think that's just about perfect. We can make a flat face at 9 degrees right on this part. So I'm going to choose this angled plane that we just made at 9 degrees. Create a sketch. I'll make a circle. We'll put a dimension on that at 14 inches. That seems about right. We'll deactivate and extrude cut. And we'll say reverse. Bam. So there's our part with the new angled face. It's important to know that this face that is highlighted is this axis that I have on my mouse on. Those are coplanar, right? Same plane. That's important as we move forward to know that those are coplanar. Next, we'll do a mirror. We'll select our cut to mirror. We'll select our plane as XY. Oops, XY. And you can see we are patterning or mirroring that cut. Okay, with all of that done, let's make some fillets just to make sure that we smooth out a few of these sharper edges. So I'll select that face, and we're going to take this down to about 0.4. And I can select each of these faces as we go down. Or faces, edges. Of course I said faces, and I accidentally selected a face at the same time, but I really mean edges. From here, let's get ready to do a Boolean. So I'm going to go ahead and save this file. Now we'll say File, New, and start a new part. And first thing I'll do immediately is go to Boolean Unite and select that. I'll insert the part that I've just been working on in a Boolean Unite, and I will purposefully place it not anywhere in particular. Next, remember how this face and this axis were on the same plane, so we're going to say constraint and just mate this to be on the same plane, just like that. And same thing with this face here. Now I can click and drag and see where else I need to be constrained. I can say I want this line to be on this plane, just so I have a plane that runs through the center. And then I'm going to be patterning around my vertical axis, so it doesn't really matter the height that my part is going to be at. So I'll select this line and this plane, and then we're fully constrained. So we can close our constraints. And how do I want to handle this? Well, first, I know that this face is 9 degrees off my center plane. And so I'm going to take advantage of knowing that. And we're going to say a circular pattern. I'm going to take this part here. We're going to go with 2 instances. And I'm going to say that this is going to be 18 degrees, or 9 times 2. Select our center plane. You can tell we have made a 1 instance circular pattern. And it's important to know, right? I can get back into my circular pattern. I can say, let's see, if we went 9 degrees, 9 times 2 is 18. So if I said and I say OK on that, then I can be pretty much done here. And if I want to fillet things out, I just do a lot of fillets. But I want to address this in another way. So I'm just going to go back to Edit, make sure that I'm working with 2 instances. And we'll say OK to that. I'll make another circular pattern with the same y-axis specified. We're going to say 18 degrees in the other direction. And so we make 1 on each side, and we'll go ahead and accept that Boolean unite. So now we've got these parts that are all welded together to become one part. And let's work on fillets. So I'm going to make a fillet that runs vertically down here. 0.25 is going to be a bit much, so I'm going to half that at 0.125. And there it shows up, and then I can fillet on this edge as well. And so now we've got fillets that are nice and smooth, and that's exactly what I want, because I want to pattern this so that it's smooth and I don't make a bunch of fillets that have to be regenerated. But there are pros and cons to every approach, so if you want to just generate the whole thing and add a whole bunch of fillets, more power to you. Or you can do it this way as well. There's no rights or wrongs. It's just about what you decide, as you are the engineer. So I'm going to give this plane a 9-degree angle as before, and we'll apply that. And then I'll make a circle as before. We'll give this 17's great. We'll deactivate, extrude, and we're going to a good depth. So we've reestablished kind of what we did last time, except now we have these fillets that are going to be able to link up and be smooth. So I'll simply mirror the cut that I've made. And of course I'm selecting my cut, and then I'm selecting my plane. Just like that. Now I might as well also just work on smoothing out the inside while I'm at it. So the first thing I'll do is sketch on this face. And then I'll make an arc, but you'll notice that my arc is kind of on the inside here and the outside down here, and that's because my part isn't centered vertically. So you might argue that I spoke too soon when I said I don't care how high or low this is in my planes, but I can always just create a reference figure and then create a line. We'll make sure that that's horizontal, since that's referencing the center. Then I can add a vertical there, and then we've got an arc. And that is going through the middle. So that's exactly what we want. I'll add a vertical line from point to point on the arc. And then I want to just make sure that this doesn't walk around on me. So we're going to, grab our lock constraint, and yep, we're good. Next, make sure that my line is vertical. We'll give this 5.25 radius, and then I can give this a distance off center as a 2.5. We'll deactivate, grab my XY plane, sketch on that, and I'll do much the same. Right, we'll project, create a reference figure, maintain association. I'm pulling this in just to mark the center. We'll grab an arc, give this a radius of 5.5. Vertical. We're going to say, there, now it's vertical. We'll give this a distance of being off center, again, 2.5. We'll deactivate. We'll not extrude cut rather, but loft cut. Going from this sketch to this sketch, I'll specify tangents of 0.25 and 0.25. Now I can mirror, and as I mirror my loft, I'll select my XY plane. So now we've got a nice little swoopy pattern that should repeat very nicely. And looking back at the tree, I realize I added a chamfer instead of a fillet. So let's go ahead and delete that. I'll roll it back here. And instead we'll replace this with a fillet. That might be a bit steep. Let's try 0.125. And we'll do the other side as well. Okay, now we should be ready to move on. So we'll generate to last feature, nothing broke, and then we'll save and close and go into our next part model. So I'm going to go ahead and save this as an intermediate to the final vase. And then moving right along, we'll create a new part. So here in the next modeling environment, again, we're going to say Boolean unite and insert the part that we were just working on. And I'm going to put it nowhere in particular because I do want to have the control of mating it myself. We're going to add a constraint. Of course, we know we want this face and this axis to be coplanar because that's how we pattern things properly. So we're going to apply that. Again, this face and this axis to be coplanar as well. If I want this line and this plane coplanar, and then I'm just left moving it up and down. I'm actually going to say it doesn't matter truly, so I'm going to leave it for right now, and then I'll start with a circular pattern. And of course I choose this part to pattern. We want an instant spacing of 20 degrees, and we're gonna 18 degrees because we did 9 and 9. And then we want 20 instances, and that should get us all the way around. I'll specify the center here as the Y plane. So we have a preview. Preview is looking pretty good, so we're going to say OK. And that's great, right? We were able to make a pattern and have all of our outside be smooth. So I think that's a good win. We'll hit the check mark. All right, with that modeled, I want to make a plane on the bottom of this here. So we're going to say plane, and I'll select 2 of these line segments, and we have a fully defined plane. And then we'll start by making a little base for this, which should be a lot of fun. I want to make a sketch now, so we'll say sketch on this plane. And you'll notice because of the way that I made the plane, I don't really have an origin here. So actually, before I make my circle, I'm just going to import these 2 lines with maintained association. I'll hit Control A and get those to be reference figures. I can now add a circle that's nice and centered because I imported those axes. And we'll give this a diameter of 7.35. We're fully constrained, so we'll go ahead and exit that sketch. And now we want to do an extrude. So let's say extrude a distance of -0.7 I'll go with. And that's just enough that we got a little face on the outside there. And we have a complete face on the inside. So that's just about exactly what I want. I'm going to go ahead and just add a few other fillets. And I can start by giving, let's do a fillet of 0.1, let's say, and we'll go all the way around this face. And then apply that, we'll go half that, 0.05. And then we'll do this bottom face and apply that. And then perhaps, I didn't mean to collect that face, so we'll remove that. I'll select this face, and maybe I'll go a bit bigger. Let's go with a quarter. So we've applied that. And then I'll select each of these edges. I think, you know, the nature of this, yeah, might be a bit of a pain to try to select them one by one with the fillet dialog, so I'll hurry and select these. So with all those selected, right, we'll select fillet, and I'll turn that down to 0.2. Yeah, I like that. So we have a vase that is pretty smooth all the way around. I'm going to call it quits here. I'd love to see if anyone in the community wants to change the top of this at all, maybe make a really creative profile up top. If you do, put it in the Alibre forum. I'd love to see it. Otherwise, I think this was a reasonable synopsis on how we can utilize both Booleans and patterns to make things that are pretty cool. Hope this was enjoyable. Please subscribe to the Alibre channel. See you in the next one.